Imagine, for a moment, standing beneath a vast night sky where countless stars shimmer like silent guardians of an ancient truth. The air is still, and in the quiet, a thought emerges. What if we are not entirely of this earth? What if our ancestors, those who first walked these lands, were placed here by beings from beyond the stars? The question hovers like a distant constellation, just out of reach, yet impossible to ignore. It calls us to lift our gaze upward and wonder whether the story of humanity began not in the soil beneath our feet, but in the endless expanse above. As you let this idea drift deeper into your mind, the stars no longer feel distant. Each one becomes a possibility, a place from which life might have traveled, carrying seeds of intelligence and curiosity across the universe. Perhaps Earth was chosen, a planet rich with oceans, mountains, and sunlight, to host an experiment in consciousness. The thought alone transforms the familiar world into something far more mysterious, as though every river, every tree, and every stone were part of a larger design set in motion long before we could imagine it. The fascination of this idea lies not in certainty, but in its vastness. To think that our origins might stretch beyond Earth reshapes how we see ourselves. We are no longer confined to the boundaries of this planet's history, but connected to a cosmic story that reaches across galaxies and epochs. And yet, there is humility here. For even as we imagine ancestors guided by extraterrestrial hands, we must accept that the evidence, if it exists at all, is hidden, subtle, and incomplete. Mystery becomes not a barrier, but a companion. Doubt naturally arises. If we were placed here, why is there no clear proof, no undeniable mark left behind, no voice from the stars confirming our origin? The silence of space is profound, and the ruins of Earth, though majestic, do not yield direct answers. And yet, when we look at our own ingenuity, the sudden rise of complex societies, the mysteries of our DNA, the myths that speak of gods descending from the heavens, it becomes easier to imagine that fragments of truth may be hidden within these puzzles. The possibility does not demand belief. It invites reflection. What if the stories of sky beings in ancient texts, the images carved into stone, the legends of visitors descending from above, are not merely imagination but memory, distorted by time? What if humanity itself is a bridge, carrying within us the heritage of both Earth and the stars? These questions do not need resolution tonight. Their purpose is to open a door gently into a space where wonder is allowed to breathe. And so, as the night sky continues to glow silently above, the thought lingers softly. Perhaps we are not only children of Earth, but also children of the cosmos, placed here by hands unseen to grow, to learn, to dream. Let this possibility rest with you, not as a demand for answers, but as a lullaby of mystery, reminding you that the universe is wider, deeper, and far more connected than we can ever fully know. When we step back and look at the idea in its widest frame, it stretches far beyond a simple question of origins. To imagine that our ancestors were placed on Earth by extraterrestrial beings is to see humanity as part of a much greater map, one that extends across galaxies and epochs, weaving our story into the fabric of the cosmos. It is not only about where we came from, but about how we are connected to something far larger, a network of life that might span the universe itself. In this panorama, the Earth becomes not an isolated cradle of life, but one of many stations in a vast journey of creation. From this perspective, human history appears not as a straight line, but as a continuation of something already in motion. Our sudden rise from hunter-gatherers to builders of great civilizations, our deep fascination with the heavens, our myths of gods descending from the skies, all seem to take on new light. Instead of isolated coincidences, they could be threads of a larger design, placed here by ancestors who carried knowledge not entirely born of this world. Each culture's legends of star people and celestial teachers become pieces of a mosaic that, when viewed together, hints at a cosmic heritage. The panorama widens further when we consider our biology. Human DNA holds mysteries that even science has not fully unraveled. Certain leaps in evolution, the sudden expansion of the human brain, the complexity of language and symbolic thought, these developments feel abrupt when compared to the slow march of natural history. Could it be that such leaps were guided, seeded, or influenced by intelligences beyond Earth? The panorama does not insist, but it invites us to hold the possibility gently, as one thread among many in the story of life. Looking outward, we see that the universe is vast, with billions of stars and countless planets. Statistically, it is unlikely that Earth is unique in hosting intelligent life. If advanced beings exist elsewhere, then the thought of them reaching across space to guide life here becomes less extraordinary and more a matter of perspective. The panorama is humbling. It tells us that we may not be alone, that we may never have been alone, and that our story is intertwined with others we cannot yet see. And yet, the panorama is not about certainty. It is about possibility. To imagine ourselves as part of a cosmic continuum is to expand the boundaries of who we think we are. It is not necessary to believe, only to consider, and in considering, to feel the vastness of the universe pressing gently against the edges of our imagination. Each star above becomes not just a point of light, but a potential origin, a silent reminder that the story of humanity may not be confined to Earth's soil. So the panorama opens wide, like a map unrolled beneath the stars. On it, we see the Earth not as the beginning, but as one chapter in a greater journey. Our ancestors, whether placed here by chance or by design, connect us to something immeasurable. And in this vision, we are reminded that the world we know is only a fragment of a much larger story, one that stretches across time, space, and the quiet mysteries of existence. Every great story begins with an origin, though origins are rarely simple. For humanity, we often trace our beginnings to the slow unfolding of evolution, the gradual shaping of life through countless ages. Yet when we step into the realm of mystery, another possibility emerges. What if our ancestors did not simply appear as the result of chance, but were placed here, guided by hands not of this earth? The first impressions of this idea are startling, yet strangely familiar, for echoes of it appear in myths, legends, and ancient stories told across cultures. In Mesopotamia, the oldest written records speak of gods descending from the heavens to fashion humankind for a purpose. In Egypt, celestial beings were said to walk among the pharaohs, guiding the construction of monuments aligned with the stars. In Mesoamerica, myths describe teachers arriving from the skies, bestowing knowledge of calendars, agriculture, and astronomy. These accounts, though wrapped in symbolism, create the impression that humanity's origins were not entirely its own. They hint at interventions, at beginnings shaped not solely by Earth, but by forces from beyond. First impressions are powerful because they come before analysis. They strike the imagination directly, like a spark in darkness. When we hear of ancient texts describing star people, or see carvings of figures descending from the sky, something resonates deep within us. Whether fact or metaphor, these images stir the sense that our story has always been connected to the heavens. The idea feels less like invention and more like memory, a faint recollection of something profound, preserved in fragments through time. The origins of such beliefs may lie in encounters our ancestors could not fully explain. Bright lights in the sky, strange figures in visions, sudden leaps in knowledge, all might have left impressions strong enough to become myths. To early humans, any encounter with beings from beyond would have seemed divine, worthy of reverence and remembrance. Over time, the details may have blurred, but the essence remained, the sense that we are not entirely of this earth, that our beginning was touched by the stars. Even our own development offers impressions that invite wonder. The sudden growth of the human brain, the emergence of complex language, the creation of symbolic art, these appeared with remarkable speed compared to the long stretches of evolutionary history. Science explains much, yet the pace of these changes continues to inspire questions. Were these leaps natural, or were they guided? The impressions left in our very biology seem to whisper of a story deeper than we can yet read. And so, the origins and first impressions of humanity are filled with both clarity and mystery. We see myths, monuments, and leaps of progress, but we do not fully understand their source. What we do see is a pattern. Again and again, the heavens appear in our earliest stories, as though humanity has always looked upward not just with curiosity, but with memory. Perhaps these impressions are fragments of a forgotten truth, that our ancestors were not only children of Earth, but guests of the cosmos, placed here to begin a journey we are still unfolding. As the idea of extraterrestrial origins lingers, we begin to notice connections that weave through human culture and experience. The first of these lies in the universality of certain symbols: the sky, the stars, the sun, and the descent of beings from above. Across continents and separated by millennia, cultures tell stories of messengers from the heavens, of knowledge brought from the stars, of ancestors who did not simply emerge from the earth but were gifted from beyond. These shared motifs form invisible threads, suggesting that humanity has always carried within it a sense of connection to something greater than itself. The first connections also reveal themselves in rituals and architecture. Ancient temples aligned with solstices and equinoxes, pyramids pointing toward constellations, and sacred sites designed to mirror the heavens show that humanity has long sought to reflect the cosmos in the structures of daily life. Such precision and reverence suggest not only admiration but memory, as though our ancestors were echoing patterns once shown to them, repeating a cosmic design that was imprinted deeply into their awareness. These connections between earth and sky are more than symbolic. They are acts of remembrance. In the realm of language, too, connections persist. Words for sky, gods, or stars often overlap in meaning across distant languages, hinting at shared archetypes. Myths of creators who descended or shaped humanity repeat in cultures that never met. It is as though the human mind itself carries a resonance with the idea that our story began with intervention, that our ancestors were part of a greater cosmic family. The connections transcend geography, suggesting roots deeper than cultural exchange, perhaps rooted in a shared experience long forgotten. Nature itself reflects these connections. The cycles of the moon, the path of the sun, the shifting constellations, all have been teachers for humanity since the beginning. If extraterrestrial beings once guided our ancestors, perhaps they pointed to these celestial patterns as reminders, as tools to maintain connection with the larger cosmos. In this way, the sky becomes not just a backdrop, but a bridge, carrying forward a memory of origins beyond Earth. Every sunrise, every starry night, is a subtle reminder of the link between humanity and the universe. The question arises, do we notice these connections in our modern lives? Too often, the answer is no. We move quickly through technology and noise, forgetting the silent patterns that once defined existence. Yet when we pause, when we gaze at the stars or feel awe before ancient monuments, something stirs within us. A quiet recognition awakens that we are part of something vast, and that our ancestors may have once stood under the same sky with the same feeling, guided by presences we cannot see. To recognize these first connections is to step into a larger story. We are not isolated beings, born without context, but participants in a web that links earth and sky, past and present, myth and possibility. Whether extraterrestrial beings truly placed our ancestors here or not, the connections remain powerful, shaping our cultures, our imaginations, and our sense of belonging. And in that realization, we find not fear but comfort. We are not alone, but woven into a cosmic fabric that stretches far beyond what we can touch or see. Imagine the Earth as it must have appeared to the first humans, vast, untamed, and filled with wonder. Towering forests stretched endlessly, rivers carved their paths through fertile valleys, and skies burned with stars far brighter than we see today. In such an atmosphere, it is easy to understand why the heavens became a constant presence in the minds of our ancestors. The environment itself encouraged the belief that life was connected to something beyond the earth, as though every whisper of wind and every shimmer of starlight carried messages from above. In this environment, silence was as powerful as sound. The hush of night under a sky filled with constellations invited reflection, while the roar of storms and the crash of waves inspired awe and humility. If beings from the stars had placed humanity here, then the earth they chose was perfectly suited to nurture both survival and contemplation. Its landscapes were classrooms, its skies a constant reminder of something greater, its cycles of light and darkness invitations to see meaning in every rhythm of nature. The atmosphere of those early days must have been one of closeness to the world, a sense that nature itself was alive with guidance. The migration of animals, the return of the seasons, the steady rising of the moon, all of these could be seen as gifts, perhaps even as signs left by those who placed us here. The connection between humanity and the cosmos was not abstract. It was woven into the daily experience of simply living on a planet that pulsed with mystery and beauty. Even the colors of the natural world carried meaning. The golden glow of dawn, the deep reds of sunset, the silver path of moonlight across the sea, all created atmospheres that invited reverence. To imagine extraterrestrial beings choosing Earth as a home for their creation is to imagine them selecting a planet that speaks through beauty, a world where the environment itself whispers constantly to its inhabitants, "You are part of something larger." Soundscapes added to this immersion. The rustle of leaves in the wind, the distant roll of thunder, the rhythmic crashing of waves on rocky shores, each was part of the background music of existence. If our ancestors were placed here, then the earth provided not only the necessities of life, but also a symphony of reminders that they were not alone. The atmosphere was more than air and climate. It was a medium through which the universe spoke quietly to those who listened. And so, as we reflect on environment and atmosphere, We begin to see the Earth not just as a stage where life unfolded by chance, but as a chosen setting, perfect in its balance of challenge and beauty, silence and sound, darkness and light. Whether by natural evolution or by the design of extraterrestrial beings, the world our ancestors inhabited was one that constantly reminded them of mystery, inviting them to look upward, to listen deeply, and to sense that they belonged to both the earth beneath their feet and the stars above their heads. Every journey of thought eventually narrows into a single question, one that hovers at the center of all reflection. As we consider the possibility that our ancestors were placed on Earth by extraterrestrial beings, the question becomes simple yet profound. What if humanity is not entirely of this world? It is not a question designed for proof or certainty, but one that opens a doorway to wonder. Like the vast silence between stars, it does not provide answers easily. It simply invites us to step inside and explore. The question resonates because it touches both science and myth, both logic and imagination. On one hand, our evolutionary story seems clear, supported by fossils, genetics, and time. On the other, there are gaps, sudden leaps in intelligence, unexplained patterns in myth, alignments in ancient monuments that leave space for speculation. The central question does not deny science. Instead, it asks whether science might be part of a larger story, one that began not only in Earth's oceans and forests, but also in the distant light of the cosmos. When we hold the question gently, it transforms how we see ourselves. We are no longer only products of chance and survival. We become participants in a cosmic narrative. If we were placed here, then humanity is not just a local story but a universal one, tied to civilizations and beings we cannot yet comprehend. This possibility humbles us, reminding us that we may not be the first, nor the only, but simply one chapter in a book written across the stars. The doubt remains, and it is valuable. If extraterrestrial beings truly had a hand in our origins, why is there no undeniable evidence? Why no artifact of advanced design, no message carved clearly into stone? The silence itself becomes part of the question. Perhaps the answers were never meant to be obvious. Perhaps the test of humanity is not to receive certainty, but to grow within mystery, learning to live with the balance between what is known and what is unknowable. The central question also awakens reflection on purpose. If our ancestors were placed here, then why? Was it to observe how life might unfold, to guide us toward growth, or simply to allow us to exist as part of a greater whole? These questions cannot be answered, but they remind us that meaning often lies not in answers, but in the act of seeking. Curiosity itself becomes the gift, an inner compass pointing us ever toward the unknown. And so we arrive at the threshold of the journey's heart. The question rests before us, not heavy but gentle, like a lantern casting light into the dark. What if we are not of this earth alone? To carry this question is to embrace the vastness of possibility, to find peace in wonder, and to step forward into the deeper exploration that awaits. For in mystery, we do not lose ourselves, we find a greater vision of who we might be. When we begin to focus on a single detail within the vast possibility of extraterrestrial origins, one of the most compelling is the sudden leaps in human development. For hundreds of thousands of years, early humans lived in relatively simple societies, their tools basic, their knowledge limited. Then, in what seems like a brief span of time, there was a surge. The mastery of fire, the creation of symbolic art, the emergence of complex language, and eventually, the birth of agriculture and civilization. These changes feel less like slow steps and more like sudden accelerations, as if something or someone nudged humanity forward. Archaeologists often describe this as the Great Leap Forward, a moment in prehistory when human creativity and intelligence expanded rapidly. Caves that were once empty suddenly filled with paintings of animals, symbols, and abstract designs. Societies that once wandered began to settle, constructing dwellings and organizing communities. The leap was profound enough to raise questions. Why then, and why so suddenly? Some scientists see only evolution's natural curve, but others wonder if external guidance, perhaps extraterrestrial intervention, played a hidden role in sparking this transformation. The detail becomes sharper when we look at myths. Nearly every ancient culture carries stories of beings descending from the sky to teach, guide, or even shape humanity itself. The Sumerians spoke of the Anunnaki, celestial figures who gifted knowledge of agriculture and kingship. Indigenous tribes in the Americas told of star people who arrived to share wisdom. In Polynesian traditions, ancestors came from the heavens, their arrival described in language that blurs the line between myth and memory. These stories, though different in form, share a curious theme. Humanity did not begin alone. Even our genetic code adds to the mystery. Within DNA lies evidence of sudden mutations and expansions of capacity, particularly in brain development. While science continues to map these changes, some researchers speculate that the jumps are too abrupt to be entirely random. Could our genetic material have been influenced, shaped, or even seeded by intelligence beyond Earth? It is impossible to prove, yet the question itself adds a fascinating dimension to our understanding of human origins. This specific detail, the leaps in knowledge, culture, and biology, may not prove extraterrestrial involvement, but it demands attention. It is in the small things, the sudden sparks, where patterns begin to emerge. Just as a single fossil reshapes the story of life, a single anomaly in our history may hint at influences we cannot yet see. To focus here is to recognize that details matter, that even the smallest fragments can point toward truths far greater than themselves. And so, as we pause with this first detail, the mind begins to drift. Perhaps we are the product of Earth alone, unfolding naturally in time. Or perhaps we were guided, encouraged, even placed here by others who wish to see life grow in new ways. The detail does not give us certainty, but it does give us wonder. And sometimes that is enough to carry us deeper into the mystery. When we take the detail of humanity's sudden leaps in development and set it against the broader canvas of history, the picture becomes even more intriguing. Evolution tells us that change is usually slow, shaped by countless generations. Yet when we look at the record of human progress, we see bursts of acceleration, as though invisible hands turned a wheel of our destiny with unusual speed. This expansion of perspective forces us to ask whether our ancestors truly advanced on their own, or whether they were guided, placed, or influenced by intelligences beyond this world. The context widens when we compare civilizations across the globe. Ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, Mesoamerica, each arose suddenly, with sophisticated systems of writing, architecture, and astronomy appearing almost fully formed. These civilizations, though separated by oceans and time, share strange similarities. Pyramids pointing to the heavens, calendars aligned with celestial events, myths of gods descending from the skies. In the larger panorama, these patterns appear less like isolated achievements and more like echoes of a common influence, scattered like starlight across human history. Even the natural environment supports this broader context. Geological changes, like the end of the Ice Age, created new opportunities for growth, but also new challenges. Rising seas erased entire coastlines, and shifting climates forced adaptation. Within this turbulence, human societies not only survived but leapt forward, as if prepared in advance for the changes. Could it be that knowledge was seeded at just the right times, ensuring survival and advancement when conditions were most unstable? The timing, when seen in context, feels deliberate, almost as though it followed a design. Cultural myths expand this perspective even further. The Sumerian tales of the Anunnaki, the Egyptian gods who arrived from the stars, the Mayan legends of celestial teachers, all speak with uncanny similarity. They describe beings descending from the sky, shaping human destiny, and then vanishing, leaving only memory. When examined individually, these stories are easily dismissed as myths. But when placed together on the same canvas, their similarities suggest more than coincidence. They become cultural fragments of a larger narrative, preserved across continents and generations. Science, too, provides context. As we explore the vastness of the universe, we discover that planets around distant stars are common, and that many of them may host conditions suitable for life. This realization reframes the possibility of extraterrestrial influence from fantasy to probability. If life is widespread, then the idea of advanced beings visiting or seeding other worlds becomes a natural extension of cosmic evolution. The expansion of context allows us to see humanity not as an isolated miracle, but as part of a larger pattern of life unfolding across the stars. Thus, the detail of human leaps, when expanded into context, no longer feels like an isolated curiosity. It becomes part of a mosaic, civilizations rising too quickly, myths pointing to the sky, science revealing a universe full of possibilities. The context does not prove the hypothesis, but it deepens the mystery, reminding us that our story may be far greater than we imagine. To see humanity in this light is to see ourselves not as the center, but as participants in a cosmic drama still unfolding, a chapter in a book written across both earth and heavens. Time is the quiet architect of all things. It builds civilizations with patience, then erases them with equal care, leaving only fragments behind. When we consider the possibility that extraterrestrial beings placed our ancestors on Earth, we must also recognize that time itself may be the greatest barrier to understanding. If such an event occurred, it may have taken place tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of years ago, so far back that evidence would have crumbled into dust, buried beneath layers of earth, sea, and silence. The archaeological record is thin, fragile, and easily broken by the weight of time. Cities once vibrant are swallowed by forests, temples fall into ruin, and even stone erodes beneath the ceaseless pressure of wind and water. If advanced beings ever walked among us, their presence could have vanished completely in the span of centuries. Our recorded history is but a flicker, 5,000 years of writing in a planet that has carried life for billions. In this temporal scale, entire civilizations could have risen and disappeared long before the first line of history was ever inscribed. The perspective deepens when we think about the rhythms of cosmic time. Stars are born, burn brightly, and die, their lives spanning millions or billions of years. Galaxies turn like wheels, endlessly repeating their cycles. Within this grand scale, humanity's entire existence is a single breath. To imagine that extraterrestrial beings may have visited or seeded life here is not unreasonable. It is simply to imagine that in the vast ocean of time, our world was touched briefly by a current flowing from the stars. But the trace of that current could already be long gone, erased by the relentless passage of ages. Even myths themselves may be victims of time. Legends carried orally for generations lose their detail, transforming into symbols and metaphors. What once might have been memory becomes myth, and myth becomes story, stripped of its factual roots. Perhaps the accounts of star beings, sky gods, and celestial teachers are not mere inventions, but worn-down echoes of truths spoken long ago, blurred by centuries until only fragments remain. In this way, time does not only erase, it transforms, leaving behind whispers instead of words. Yet, time also preserves. Beneath layers of earth, fossils endure. In caves sealed for millennia, paintings remain vivid. On tablets of clay, etched by ancient hands, myths continue to speak across ages. If our ancestors were indeed placed here, then perhaps some trace of that intervention still lies hidden, waiting for discovery. The temporal perspective reminds us that time conceals, but it also reveals, often at moments we least expect. Each artifact, each fragment unearthed, is a window into a story time has not fully destroyed. In the end, the perspective of time humbles us. It teaches us that our certainty is fragile, our history incomplete. The mystery of extraterrestrial origins may forever lie beyond proof, not because it is false, but because time itself has hidden it beyond reach. Yet there is comfort in this humility, for it reminds us that life is always more expansive than we can fully grasp. Whether placed here by beings from the stars or shaped slowly by Earth itself, our existence is precious, a fleeting light in the immense darkness of time. When we shift from time to space, the question of extraterrestrial origins unfolds in new ways. Earth is vast, its landscapes varied, and each region carries its own mysteries. Across deserts, jungles, mountains, and oceans, we find traces, monuments, myths, alignments that seem to whisper the same story. Humanity has always looked upward for answers. If our ancestors were placed here by beings from the stars, the evidence of that placement may not lie in one place alone, but across the entire fabric of the world. In the deserts of Egypt, the pyramids rise in perfect geometry, their stones aligned with celestial bodies as if to mirror the heavens. Thousands of miles away, in Mesoamerica, stepped pyramids echo the same design, pointing to the same sky. Across the Pacific, on remote Easter Island, giant statues stand with their gaze fixed outward, as though waiting for someone or something to return. The spatial distribution of these wonders, separated by oceans yet united by theme, creates the impression of a shared blueprint scattered deliberately across the globe. Beneath dense jungles, new technologies reveal vast hidden cities, complete with roads, canals, and astronomical observatories. In South America, the Nazca lines stretch across arid plains, giant figures visible only from the sky. In Asia, megalithic sites align with stars and patterns still not fully understood. Across continents, cultures that supposedly never communicated share an obsession with the heavens and with beings descending from them. The spatial spread of these mysteries suggests either remarkable coincidence or echoes of a common influence. Even the oceans, covering most of our planet, invite speculation. Submerged structures off the coast of Japan, ruins beneath the waters near India, and mysterious shapes on the seafloor hint at civilizations erased by rising seas. If extraterrestrial beings once placed humanity here, perhaps they chose coastal regions, knowing that water would eventually conceal their work. The oceans then become not just barriers, but vaults, hiding fragments of a story too vast to be told in one place. Spatial perspective also highlights the universality of myth. From the Andes to the Himalayas, from the Arctic to the Pacific Islands, stories of star people, sky gods, and teachers from above appear again and again. They're not confined to one region or one culture. They span the globe. This universality suggests that if extraterrestrial intervention occurred, it was not a local event but a planetary one, shaping humanity as whole rather than a single tribe or civilization. In this light, space becomes more than geography. It becomes testimony. The Earth itself is a canvas on which the story of our origins may have been written, scattered in fragments across mountains, deserts, jungles, and seas. To look at one place alone is to see a puzzle piece. To step back and consider the whole globe is to see a pattern emerging. And within that pattern, the possibility grows clearer that our ancestors may have been placed here not by chance, but by design, with reminders of that design spread across the very surface of the world. Not all influences leave visible traces. Some of the most powerful forces shaping humanity are unseen, moving quietly beneath the surface of history. If extraterrestrial beings once placed our ancestors on Earth, perhaps their influence was not only physical but also subtle, guiding us through forces invisible to the eye. These forces, climate, genetics, belief, even the unseen rhythms of the cosmos, may have been the instruments through which humanity's path was shaped, ensuring that we would grow into what we are today. Consider climate, that great invisible sculptor. Shifts in temperature and rainfall have pushed societies to adapt, migrate, and innovate. The retreat of glaciers opened fertile valleys. Droughts forced the creation of agriculture. Floods carved stories of survival into myth. If advanced beings seeded or guided humanity, they may have used these natural forces as tools, creating challenges that strengthened us, shaping our destiny without leaving any visible signature. The Earth itself, in this view, becomes part of a design. Genetics, too, belongs to the realm of the unseen. Within the double helix of DNA lies the blueprint of life, invisible yet decisive. The sudden expansion of human brain capacity, complexity of language, and the rise of abstract thought may reflect not only natural selection but influences hidden within our code. Some scientists speculate that fragments of our DNA appear oddly out of place, as though inserted or modified. If extraterrestrials had a role in placing us here, they may have worked not through monuments of stone, but through the silent architecture of genes. Belief and culture also operate as invisible forces. Myths shape behavior, rituals create unity, and shared stories give purpose to entire civilizations. The legends of gods descending from the heavens may have been more than allegories. They may have been instructions, encoded in memory to guide humanity's development. Even when stripped of their literal meaning, these beliefs continue to shape how we see ourselves and the universe. The invisible force of story may be the greatest legacy of all, carrying echoes of origins we no longer remember. The cosmos itself adds another dimension. Invisible fields of gravity, magnetic currents, and solar radiation subtly affect life on Earth, creating patterns we barely perceive. Advanced beings, if they exist, would understand these forces far more deeply than we do. They may have used them not only to travel here, but also to influence our world in ways beyond our recognition. To them, invisibility would not mean weakness, it would mean mastery. And so, we are reminded that not all guidance leaves monuments or clear evidence. Sometimes the greatest influences are those we cannot see, forces that move quietly, shaping the course of history from beneath the surface. If our ancestors were placed on Earth by extraterrestrial beings, their work may not be written in stone but woven into the invisible threads of nature, culture, and life itself. To sense this is to realize that absence of evidence is not absence of influence. It may simply be the mark of wisdom working unseen. Life on Earth unfolds in cycles. Day follows night, seasons turn, tides rise and fall. These natural rhythms are so constant that we rarely question them, yet they shape every aspect of existence. If extraterrestrial beings placed our ancestors here, perhaps they chose Earth precisely because of these rhythms. A planet whose cycles not only sustain life but also teach balance, patience, and continuity. To live on Earth is to be carried along by patterns larger than ourselves, woven into a design that feels at once natural and deliberate. The rhythm of the seasons is perhaps the most obvious teacher. Spring invites renewal, summer brings abundance, autumn prepares for rest, and winter draws life inward. Early humans depended on these cycles for survival, learning to plant, harvest, and store. But beyond survival, the seasons shaped culture, myth, and spirituality. Festivals marked solstices, stories explained the turning of the year, and temples aligned with the sun's path. If our placement here was intentional, then these rhythms serve not only as sustenance but as reminders of cosmic order, encouraging humanity to live in harmony with larger cycles. The tides, governed by the pull of the moon, offered another rhythm of connection. To our ancestors, the ebb and flow of water was both mystery and instruction, teaching the importance of balance and adaptation. If extraterrestrial beings had a hand in shaping our path, they may have used such rhythms as subtle tools, embedding in the environment patterns that mirrored the cycles of growth and transformation they wished humanity to follow. The sea, in this sense, became a living textbook of cosmic design. Even the rhythm of the stars reveals itself as guidance. Constellations shift with the seasons, planets trace their paths across the sky, and eclipses remind us of a hidden order behind apparent chaos. Early humans built calendars, myths, and rituals around these celestial patterns, reflecting their importance. If beings from beyond wished to leave us with a connection to the cosmos, perhaps they wove that message directly into the sky, where no monument could decay and no memory could erase it. The stars themselves became an eternal archive. But rhythms are not only external, they exist within us as well. The heartbeat, the breath, the cycles of sleep and waking all reflect the larger patterns of Earth. To be human is to live in harmony with these unseen pulses, to be a participant in rhythms that echo those of the cosmos itself. If we were placed here, it may not have been to dominate the Earth, but to learn from it, to recognize that the cycles around us mirror the cycles within us. To reflect on natural rhythms is to recognize that life's greatest teachers are not always loud or dramatic. They are quiet, constant, and patient, like the turning of the Earth itself. If extraterrestrials shaped our destiny, perhaps they did so not through direct instruction, but by placing us in an environment that taught simply by being. And in this sense, every sunrise, every tide, every heartbeat becomes more than a natural event. It becomes a reminder of our place in a universe built on rhythm, order, and the quiet wisdom of cycles. At the center of every reflection lies the quiet presence of mystery. We have explored myths, monuments, rhythms, and unseen forces, yet none of them give us certainty. If our ancestors were truly placed on Earth by extraterrestrial beings, the evidence of it remains elusive, never quite solid, never entirely absent. The mystery is not a failure of knowledge, but a reminder of the limits of what can be known. It is the space between fact and imagination, where wonder lives and questions endure. Mystery has always been part of the human experience. When ancient people gazed at the stars, they did not see only points of light. They saw stories, beings, and possibilities. The same sky inspires us today, yet science has taught us how far away those stars truly are. Still, the distance does not erase the feeling. Mystery persists, not in what we cannot measure, but in what we cannot resolve. The idea that we may carry the legacy of other worlds in our very being is not proven, but continues to whisper in our collective imagination. What makes the mystery so enduring is its silence. If extraterrestrials placed us here, why do they not speak now? Why is there no clear message, no undeniable trace? Perhaps silence is the answer itself. Maybe we were meant to grow without constant guidance, to discover ourselves rather than depend on those who might have started our journey. Mystery, in this view, is not abandonment but an invitation, an open space in which humanity must write its own story. And yet, mystery also protects. Certainty can be heavy. It closes doors and ends questions. Mystery, by contrast, leaves doors open, allowing us to continue searching, dreaming, and imagining. If our origins were made plain, much of our curiosity might vanish. But with mystery, the mind expands, seeing possibility in every fragment of myth, in every alignment of stone, in every unexplained leap of progress. The unknown is not a void. It is a canvas. There is also comfort in mystery. It reminds us that we do not need to solve everything to find meaning. The questions themselves are meaningful, shaping how we see ourselves in the universe. To live with mystery is to live with humility, acknowledging that we are part of something larger than we can fully grasp. If our ancestors were placed here, Perhaps the greatest gift was not the act itself, but the mystery it left behind, ensuring that humanity would always look upward in wonder. And so the mystery remains patient and enduring. It does not demand proof, nor does it vanish with doubt. It simply waits, like the stars overhead, distant, silent, but constant. Whether extraterrestrial beings shaped our beginnings or not, the mystery ensures that our journey is never complete, that we are always reaching, always dreaming, always suspended between what is known and what will forever remain beyond our grasp. Life often reveals itself through opposites. Light and shadow, sound and silence, presence and absence. Each exists because of the other. When we reflect on the possibility that our ancestors were placed on Earth by extraterrestrial beings, we encounter the same balance of contrasts. Evidence and doubt, myth and science, faith and skepticism all coexist, creating a harmony that shapes our understanding. The truth may lie not in one side or the other, but in the delicate tension between them. Consider the contrast between the visible and the invisible. We have monuments of stone, aligned with the heavens, enduring across millennia. Yet the meaning behind them is faded, leaving us only with speculation. We see the presence of design, but we also feel the absence of explanation. This tension does not diminish the monuments, it makes them more powerful. They are not only structures of stone, but vessels of silence, reminding us that presence and absence are partners in shaping mystery. There is also the contrast between myth and science. Myths tell of gods descending from the sky, of ancestors arriving from the heavens. Science, meanwhile, searches for evidence in DNA, fossils, and the cosmos itself. Alone, each perspective is incomplete. Myth gives imagination without proof. Science gives data without wonder. Together, they form a harmony, each balancing the other. Perhaps extraterrestrial origins are not proven by either myth or science alone, but by the interplay of both, guiding us to a truth we can only approach, never fully hold. Even within ourselves, contrasts exist. We long for certainty, yet we thrive in curiosity. We seek origins, yet we also create our own meaning. If beings from the stars placed us here, they may have understood this duality, that humanity is sustained by both answers and questions. Certainty gives stability, but uncertainty gives growth. The harmony of contrasts may be the very reason we were left with mystery, to ensure that we would continue seeking, learning, and expanding. The earth itself reflects this pattern. Mountains rise while valleys sink, rivers flood and recede, seasons bring life and death. The balance of opposites is written into the very fabric of nature. If extraterrestrial beings chose Earth as humanity's home, they may have chosen it for this very reason, a planet that embodies contrasts, teaching us harmony through the experience of opposites. Our existence, then, is not an accident but a reflection of cosmic balance. To embrace harmony and contrasts is to find peace. We do not need to resolve every paradox. We can live within them. The silence of the unknown and the presence of wonder are not contradictions. They are complements. Whether our ancestors came from Earth alone or from the stars above, the beauty lies in the interplay, the dance of certainty and doubt, the harmony that emerges when opposites coexist. And in this balance, we find not fear but serenity, a quiet acceptance that the mystery itself is the answer. Nothing in existence stands alone. Every river flows into oceans. Every star belongs to a constellation. Every human story echoes through countless others. If our ancestors were placed on Earth by extraterrestrial beings, then the act itself would have been part of an intricate web of connections, linking not only our species to the cosmos, but also weaving together cultures, environments, and unseen forces into a single narrative of belonging. To reflect on this is to realize that our origins, whether earthly or cosmic, are defined by interaction. Across cultures, the connections are striking. Civilizations separated by oceans describe similar tales of beings from the sky, teachers, guides, creators. These myths may not be identical, but they resonate with a shared rhythm, like variations on the same theme. Could it be that they are fragments of a larger memory, scattered across time and geography? If extraterrestrials influenced humanity, their presence may not have been confined to one place, but felt across the globe, leaving imprints that cultures interpreted through their own languages and traditions. Interactions are also visible in knowledge itself. The spread of agriculture, astronomy, and architecture often occurred in leaps, as if wisdom was passed suddenly from one group to another. Some argue this was simple cultural exchange, while others wonder if the spark originated from elsewhere. Knowledge, after all, is a form of connection, a thread that binds generations and societies. If our ancestors were placed here, perhaps they were given not only life, but also seeds of understanding to be nurtured and shared through human interaction. Nature, too, forms part of this network. The cycles of the moon guided calendars, the stars directed migrations, the tides dictated survival. These natural forces connected humans to the Earth, but also to the cosmos beyond. If beings from other worlds placed us here, perhaps they chose Earth because of these connections, a planet whose rhythms echo those of the wider universe. In this way, every sunrise and every constellation became part of a dialogue between humanity and the cosmos, a reminder of our place in a greater whole. Even collapse is a kind of interaction. When one civilization falls, another inherits fragments of its wisdom. When myths fade, echoes remain in new traditions. Nothing is lost entirely. It is transformed and carried forward. If extraterrestrials had a hand in our beginnings, then perhaps this cycle of preservation and transformation was part of the design, a way to ensure the connection never truly ends, but flows endlessly from past to future. To see humanity through the lens of interactions and connections is to dissolve the illusion of isolation. We are not alone, not in culture, not in nature, and perhaps not in the universe. Our lives are woven into a web that stretches across time and space, binding us to one another and to possibilities we cannot yet imagine. If our ancestors were placed here, then their gift was not just existence, but relationship, a reminder that everything is connected and that in connection we find both meaning and peace. Every journey eventually reaches a threshold, a place where exploration gives way to reflection. As we consider the possibility that our ancestors were placed on Earth by extraterrestrial beings, we have wandered through myths, monuments, rhythms, and invisible forces. We have traced connections across cultures and time, glimpsing patterns that suggest a story larger than our own. Now we arrive at a gentle turning point, the moment where questions stop reaching outward and begin to turn inward, guiding us toward quiet understanding. This transition is not about solving the mystery. It is about accepting its presence as part of life itself. Whether extraterrestrial beings truly had a hand in shaping humanity may never be proven, but the act of wondering has already given us something valuable, a wider sense of belonging. We are no longer confined to Earth's narrow story. We are participants in a cosmic narrative, one that stretches beyond stars and centuries. To rest here is to recognize that mystery is not an obstacle, but a companion, guiding us into deeper awareness. At this point of transition, the contrast we have explored, certainty and doubt, presence and absence, science and myth, begin to weave together into a single thread. We no longer need to hold them apart. Instead, they merge, forming a harmony that speaks not of answers but of balance. Just as day blends into night at twilight, the search for origins now blends into reflection, creating space for peace. The mystery does not vanish. It softens, becoming part of the atmosphere around us. The transition also shifts our perspective on purpose. If our ancestors were placed here, perhaps the reason was not for us to solve their mystery, but to grow through it. Questions awaken curiosity, and curiosity nurtures wisdom. In this way, the absence of proof becomes as important as any evidence could be. It allows humanity to continue seeking, to keep expanding, to remain humble in the face of the unknown. This humility itself may be the gift of the mystery, reminding us to look not only outward, but also inward. There is a stillness in this realization. Like standing at the edge of a vast ocean, we know we cannot see its farthest shores, yet we feel its immensity all around us. The transition is a pause, a breath, a moment to simply rest within the awareness that the story of humanity is greater than what we can fully know. The silence that surrounds this possibility is not empty. It is full of invitation, urging us to listen more deeply. And so the journey turns. We step quietly from seeking evidence to embracing reflection, from the excitement of possibility to the calm of acceptance. This point of transition prepares us for what follows. Not final answers, but closure, not certainty, but serenity. The exploration continues, but now its direction shifts inward, toward peace, preparing us for the final movement of the story, one that leads us gently into rest, just as night leads us into sleep. As we look back on the path we have traveled, a gentle stillness gathers around the story. We began with a single question: what if our ancestors were placed on Earth by extraterrestrial beings? And followed it through landscapes of myth, evidence, rhythm, and silence. Along the way, We touched upon sudden leaps in human progress, the universality of sky gods in ancient cultures, the hidden forces of time and space, and the delicate balance of presence and absence. Each fragment has not given us certainty, but together they have created something more enduring, a sense of wonder. The contemplative summary reminds us that the journey itself was the purpose. To imagine our origins as linked not only to Earth but to the stars is to open our minds to a wider vision of existence. We no longer see humanity as confined to a single planet, but as participants in a cosmic story. Whether this story is fact or dream does not matter tonight. What matters is the feeling it awakens, the humility of being small in a vast universe, and the comfort of knowing we may be part of something immeasurable. In gathering these reflections, we also notice the balance of contrasts. The myths of the past coexist with the data of science, the silence of space with the whispers of imagination, the permanence of stone with the fragility of memory. None of these alone can give us answers, yet together they form harmony. It is in this harmony that meaning is found, not in proof, but in the gentle recognition that life is always more expansive than we can fully explain. The summary also softens the edges of doubt. We do not need to prove whether extraterrestrials place humanity here. The question itself has done its work by stretching our vision, by reminding us that mystery is part of existence, and by showing us that uncertainty can be as nourishing as knowledge. In this way, the absence of resolution becomes a source of peace rather than frustration. The unknown, instead of frightening us, becomes a quiet companion. As we rest in this contemplative moment, the narrative gathers into a single thread. Humanity is both of Earth and beyond it. Whether literally placed here by beings from the stars or simply shaped by the rhythms of the cosmos, our lives are intertwined with something larger than ourselves. The stars above and the soil beneath are not opposites, but mirrors, reflecting the same truth, that we belong to both. And so, the contemplative summary closes this part of the journey with serenity. We have walked far, not to find final answers, but to arrive at a place of calm. The mystery remains, vast and unbroken, yet it no longer weighs heavily. It is now a space of rest, a gentle reminder that to wonder is enough. When we widen our perspective once more, the question of extraterrestrial origins becomes less about proof and more about meaning. Science gives us tools to measure and analyze, while imagination gives us the freedom to dream beyond those boundaries. Together, they remind us that knowledge is not complete without wonder, and that wonder is not empty without knowledge. The hypothesis that our ancestors were placed here by beings from the stars may never be proven, but its value lies in how it reshapes the way we see ourselves, not as isolated, but as connected to a vast, living cosmos. Philosophy adds its voice to this reflection. If our beginnings were guided, what does that say about purpose? Were we placed here as an experiment, a creation, or a continuation of a story older than Earth itself? Or were we simply one expression of life's endless potential, flourishing here just as it might elsewhere? These questions do not narrow the mystery. They expand it, teaching us that the act of asking is itself transformative. It moves us beyond survival into contemplation, beyond certainty into wisdom. There is also an emotional resonance in this reflection. To imagine ourselves as children of both Earth and the stars is to feel both smaller and greater at once. Smaller because we realize we are not the center of the universe. Greater because we sense we are part of something immense, a continuity of life that may stretch across galaxies. This dual awareness humbles us, grounding us in our fragility while lifting us into the beauty of possibility. Even our doubts enrich the reflection. Skepticism keeps us grounded, preventing us from drifting too far into fantasy. But doubt also sharpens curiosity, reminding us that mystery need not be resolved to be meaningful. The absence of evidence becomes a quiet invitation, allowing us to dwell in openness rather than closure. In this way, doubt and wonder form a partnership, each giving strength to the other, ensuring that reflection remains balanced. The expanded view also reveals that humanity's greatest gift may not be intelligence, but imagination. We dream of stars, we tell stories of gods and visitors, we search the skies for signs. Whether or not our ancestors were placed here, this yearning connects us to something beyond ourselves. It may be that the very act of asking if we were shaped by extraterrestrial beings is what binds us most closely to the universe, because in asking, we acknowledge that we are part of it. Thus, the expanded reflection leaves us not with answers, but with perspective. Science, myth, philosophy, and emotion all converge into a single awareness, that life is both fragile and vast, rooted in Earth yet reaching into the stars. Whether extraterrestrial beings touched our beginnings or not, the truth is that we are here now, part of an unfolding story whose depth we cannot yet measure. And in this realization, there is serenity, the comfort of knowing that mystery itself is a form of belonging. Between every spoken idea lies a pause, and within that pause rests a deeper truth. As we reflect on the possibility that extraterrestrial beings placed our ancestors on Earth, we find that the loudest part of the question is not in what we say, but in what remains unsaid. The silence between words becomes a space for mystery, for wonder, for peace. It is here, in the quiet, that imagination breathes freely, unbound by the need for proof or certainty. This silence is not empty, it is full. It carries the weight of forgotten histories, of myths whispered across centuries, of stars burning in the night sky without explanation. When we walk among ancient ruins, it is not only the stones we see, but also the silence that surrounds them, the absence of voices that once filled those spaces. That absence is not void. It is presence of another kind, inviting us to listen with more than our ears. Silence also protects the mystery. If there were clear answers, the question would end, and with it, the wonder. But in the silence, the question remains alive, stretching across generations. Myths are retold, theories imagined, possibilities dreamed. Each pause in certainty allows the story to continue, ensures that humanity keeps looking upward, keeps asking, keeps listening. Silence is the gentle guardian of mystery, ensuring it is never resolved too quickly. Within ourselves, silence is a mirror. When the noise of daily life falls away, we hear the subtle rhythm of our own breath, the steady beat of the heart. These inner silences connect us to the larger ones, the silence of night, the silence of distant galaxies. If extraterrestrial beings truly placed us here, perhaps they left us no words, but silence instead, trusting that within it we would find both humility and strength. The silence between words also softens us. It reminds us that we do not need to explain everything, that life is allowed to remain unfinished, unresolved. In the spaces where language falters, peace can take root. What if silence itself is the message left by our cosmic ancestors, a reminder that presence does not always need sound, that meaning can exist without explanation? The silence holds us, comforts us, and teaches us that uncertainty can be gentle. So we honor the silence. We do not rush to fill it, but let it linger, expansive and patient. Between the words, between the stories, between the stars themselves, silence stretches endlessly, reminding us that we are part of something greater than language can capture. And in that realization, we rest, not in answers, but in the stillness that surrounds them, the quiet embrace of mystery, the silence between words. In the vast sweep of human history, it is often the smallest details that capture the imagination most deeply. A single carving etched into stone, a symbol preserved on a fragment of pottery, or a myth repeated in a child's lullaby. Each tiny piece holds the weight of civilizations. If our ancestors were placed on Earth by extraterrestrial beings, perhaps their presence is not revealed in grand monuments or unmistakable evidence, but in subtle details, waiting quietly for us to notice. Consider the precision of ancient star maps. Long before telescopes, cultures across the globe recorded constellations and celestial movements with uncanny accuracy. Some even charted stars invisible to the naked eye, knowledge confirmed only in recent centuries. Such details are easy to overlook, yet they whisper of something extraordinary. Did human beings without advanced tools simply guess so well? Or were they remembering something shown to them long ago by teachers from beyond? Artifacts also speak through their intricacies. The delicate patterns on jewelry, the careful alignment of megaliths, the repetition of spiral motifs across continents, these are not random flourishes. They are details that suggest intention, memory, and meaning. In the beauty of these fragments, one wonders if they are echoes of a larger story, symbols preserved not to prove, but to remind. They may be the fingerprints of influence, left where only the attentive would look. Even myths carry their details. While the broad strokes speak of gods from the sky, the finer points often describe technologies, clothing, or behaviors that feel oddly precise. Ancient texts mention chariots of fire, wheels within wheels, and beings clothed in shining light. These descriptions, though poetic, contain details that transcend imagination, as if they were attempts to describe something real, seen but not understood. The beauty lies in their ambiguity, inviting us to interpret without ever giving us closure. Nature, too, holds fragments of detail. The spirals in seashells, the geometry of snowflakes, the hidden patterns of DNA, all reflect a harmony that feels deliberate, as though Earth itself was chosen for its intricate beauty. If extraterrestrials placed humanity here, they may have left the message not in obvious marks, but in the quiet details of the natural world, encouraging us to discover the extraordinary hidden in the ordinary. To see the beauty of detail is to accept that meaning does not always arrive in grand revelations. Sometimes it is carried in the smallest fragments, the whispers hidden between louder truths. Whether or not our ancestors were placed here by beings from the stars, the details remain powerful, reminding us that life itself is layered with mystery. In each shard, each symbol, each story, we find not proof, but invitation, an opening to wonder, to dream, and to belong to something greater than ourselves. If our ancestors were placed on Earth by extraterrestrial beings, then the question is not only about the past, it is also about the future. What might it mean for us to live with the possibility that our story began beyond this planet? To look ahead is to imagine humanity not as a species confined to Earth, but as a branch of something larger, destined to explore, to reach outward, and perhaps to reconnect with the origins we have only begun to suspect. The horizon becomes more than time. It becomes direction. Looking toward the future, we see ourselves standing at the edge of discovery. Our technology carries us deeper into space, sending probes to other worlds, listening for signals across galaxies, and searching for planets where life might exist. Each step outward reflects not only curiosity, but also longing, the desire to know whether the beings who may have placed us here are still watching, or whether others like them exist among the stars. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence becomes, in this sense, a search for family. But the future is not only about contact, it is about responsibility. If we were placed here with intention, then perhaps we carry a role within a larger plan. The Earth, fragile and beautiful, may have been chosen for us to care for, not exploit. Looking forward, we must ask, are we living as worthy inheritors of this gift? The future is shaped not only by technology and exploration, but by the choices we make now, choices that reflect whether we honor or betray the purpose of our presence here. There is also the possibility that the cycle will continue. Just as our ancestors may have been placed here, one day humanity may carry life to other worlds. We might become the extraterrestrial beings of the future, seeding planets with a spark of intelligence, repeating the pattern that may have shaped us. In this light, the question of our origins becomes a guide for our destiny, reminding us that we are not only shaped by the cosmos, but also called to shape it in turn. The future also invites humility. Whether or not extraterrestrials placed us here, the truth is that we are still learning, still vulnerable, still bound to the rhythms of nature and the vastness of space. The path forward must be one of balance, between ambition and respect, between exploration and preservation. To imagine ourselves as children of the stars is to embrace not only potential, but also responsibility, for the future we create will one day be someone else's past. And so, looking toward the future, we find hope. The mystery of our origins does not confine us. It liberates us. It tells us that life is full of possibility, that we are part of something greater, and that our journey has only just begun. Whether we are reunited with those who may have placed us here or simply continue to dream of them, the future remains open, wide, and filled with wonder, a canvas waiting for the next chapter of humanity's story to be written among the stars. Every journey finds its quiet ending, not as a sudden stop, but as a gentle fading, like the colors of twilight softening into night. As we reflect on the possibility that our ancestors were placed on Earth by extraterrestrial beings, we feel the story settling into stillness. The questions remain unanswered, yet they no longer press with urgency. Instead, they rest beside us, calm and patient, like companions that do not demand attention but simply exist, reminding us of the vastness of mystery. Closure does not mean certainty. It means learning to live peacefully with uncertainty, to accept that some truths may never be fully revealed. We have explored myths and monuments, natural rhythms and invisible forces, connections across cultures, and the silence of the unknown. Each of these has brought us closer not to an answer, but to a deeper awareness that life itself is the greatest mystery, and that its beauty lies not in resolution but in wonder. This sense of closure invites gratitude. Gratitude for the stories of our ancestors, for the symbols they left behind, for the questions that have survived across millennia. Gratitude for the sky above us, still filled with stars, and for the earth beneath our feet, still carrying us forward. Whether or not we were placed here by beings from beyond, the fact that we are here at all is astonishing, a gift we often overlook in the noise of daily life. In closure, we also recognize continuity. The mystery does not end with us. It flows forward, carried into future generations who will ask their own questions, dream their own dreams, and perhaps find their own answers. We are part of a larger stream of seeking, one that began long before us and will continue long after. The possibility of extraterrestrial origins becomes less about proof and more about participation, about being part of the eternal rhythm of wondering. There is comfort in letting go. We do not need to solve the mystery tonight. We can release the tension of searching and rest in the knowledge that the universe holds more than we can ever know, and that this is not a loss but a blessing. The silence that surrounds us is not emptiness but fullness, carrying us into rest as surely as night carries the world into sleep. And so, the sense of closure arrives, quiet and tender. The journey has not ended so much as it has transformed, moving from curiosity to calm, from seeking to serenity. We close this chapter not with conclusions but with peace, holding the mystery gently, like a soft light within. And as the night deepens, we prepare to step into the final images and the quiet embrace of rest. Close your eyes and imagine a wide, starlit plain under an endless night sky. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of earth and stone, untouched for ages. Above, the stars shine with extraordinary clarity, each one like a silent witness to stories far older than memory. In the stillness, you sense that this is the same sky your ancestors once gazed upon, perhaps guided, perhaps placed here by hands unseen. The stars do not answer, but they glow steadily, offering presence instead of certainty. On the horizon, the faint outline of ancient structures rises from the darkness, ruins softened by time, half claimed by the earth, yet still reaching upward. They are not threatening, but gentle, like guardians that have waited patiently for centuries. You walk slowly toward them, each step quiet against the ground, feeling as though you are retracing the path of those who came long before. The air hums softly with the rhythm of existence, as if the universe itself is breathing with you. As you draw nearer, the structures seem less like ruins and more like memories carved into the world. Their edges blur into the landscape, as though they are part of the earth itself, grown from stone rather than built. You pause before them, feeling no urgency, only calm. The details are vague, the meanings forgotten, but the silence they hold speaks volumes, of beginnings unspoken, of mysteries preserved, of stories carried not in words but in presence. You tilt your gaze upward again, and the night sky stretches endlessly. Constellations sparkle like messages written in a language you cannot yet read. For a moment, you sense that you belong to both worlds, the earth beneath your feet and the stars above your head. You do not need to decide where your origins lie. You are part of both. The beauty of the scene lies in its harmony, the blending of earth and cosmos into a single, quiet truth. Breathing slowly, you feel your body grow lighter, as though the weight of questions has gently lifted. You are not pressed to solve, to prove, or to decide. You are invited only to rest, to let the mystery cradle you like the steady tide of the sea. The stars continue to shine, the earth continues to hold you, and the silence deepens into peace. This final image stays with you, a night sky filled with endless stars, ruins softened by time, and the calm awareness that you are both child of earth and child of the cosmos. The scene does not fade. It merges with you, becoming the landscape of your dreams. Wrapped in its stillness, you drift toward rest, carried gently into sleep by the quiet embrace of the universe itself. Now the journey draws to its gentle close. We have wandered through possibilities, imagined beings from the stars placing our ancestors on this earth, and allowed the mystery to flow quietly through us. Yet as the night deepens, the questions no longer matter. They dissolve into calm, leaving only the awareness that we are part of something vast, timeless, and endlessly mysterious. You are free now to rest, carried not by certainty, but by wonder. There is no need to hold on to the stories or the images. Let them drift away, like clouds moving slowly across a dark sky. The monuments, the myths, the rhythms, the silence, all of them can rest now, just as you can. The mystery does not vanish. It simply waits, patient and eternal, until you are ready to dream of it again. Tonight, you do not need to search. You only need to breathe, to surrender, and to let sleep take you gently into its embrace. Feel your body sinking deeper into stillness. The breath grows slower, the heart steadier. Every muscle softens, releasing the weight of the day. You are safe, you are calm, and you are held within the quiet arms of night. The earth beneath you, the stars above you, and the silence around you form a cradle, rocking you gently toward rest. Nothing more is required of you now. The questions of origin, the stories of cosmic ancestors, the whispers of other worlds, all can be set aside. They will remain, waiting patiently for another night, another reflection. For now, the only truth you need is this. You are here, in this moment, surrounded by peace. The universe is vast, and you are part of it. That is enough. As your eyes grow heavier, let go of thought and drift into dreams. Imagine yourself floating among the stars, each one a lantern guiding you deeper into rest. No urgency, no searching, only quiet presence, only calm. The mystery that began with questions now ends with serenity, its silence wrapping you like a soft blanket. Good night, traveler of possibilities. May the stars watch over your dreams. May the earth hold you in safety, and may the mystery of life carry you not into worry, but into wonder. Sleep peacefully now, knowing that you are both child of this planet and child of the cosmos. The journey has ended, but your rest has just begun.